It was pretty cool. I used to bring home the Unical 76 footballs and soccer balls and volleyballs, and it's great, great. I like the brand. You know what my favorite number is? 77. I moved up. Sorry, I'm just kidding. All right, without further ado, Andrew, do you want to introduce your new buddy from the bar? Come on up here, Andrew. Come on up here. Andrew Ayler.
Andrew doesn't have anything nice to say
these
about
guys. These guys have bonded so much.
He just got to tell me that everyone will want to leave after this speech is so good.
Just drop the mic when it's over.
Thank you, Andrew.
So I hate having to go after Gary and Don. Those both presentations, passionate, and they're about interesting stuff that applies to all of us. And cover so much ground and so many pieces of our lives, and then I'm going to deliver this extremely dry presentation about integrated payments. And as they were presenting this morning, I was thinking, gosh, you know, this stinks to have to follow this. But it felt familiar, and then I remembered that it had happened to me before. So about years ago, 15 years ago or so, I worked at Cisco Systems, and we're bringing in a bunch of salespeople. And I had just the most boring 8-slide product presentation that I had to do, and it could fit anywhere in the week-long sales training that was going on. And so as they were building the schedule and the event planners were moving, I just kept getting moved from one day to another and one day to another, because it didn't matter where mine went in. A lot of other much more important presentations in mine. Mine was just sort of filler that stuck in. And as it kept moving and kept moving and kept moving, it ended up on the last day. It ended up on Friday, and it ended up getting pushed to the end of the day. And I was the second to the last speaker on a week-long, salespeople cooped up for a week of training, which is a nightmare. I'm the second to the last presentation, and the last presentation was Mike Krzyzewski, coach of Duke, who had just coached the U.S. Olympic basketball team. So I was right before Krzyzewski. And then Krzyzewski had a schedule change and had to bump it up an hour. So now I'm following Krzyzewski. We've had salespeople cooped up for a week. Krzyzewski was the last presentation, the only thing standing between salespeople and beer, right? Now I am. Now it's Krzyzewski, me, beer. And I have this terrible presentation that, I mean, it was just a nightmare. And so, but I had an ace in the hole. I got a very close friend. His name is Jim Daly. Jim is a brilliant, funny, charming, handsome man. My wife has had a crush on him for as long as we've known him. She won't admit to it. But Jim used to, Jim had an interesting job for Krzyzewski. He used to scout the Blue Devils for the Blue Devils. So it was his job to sit at Duke games and scout as if he were the upcoming opposing coach and deliver scouting. I said, what a cool job. So he went to all the Duke games, and anyway, that's what he did. And he worked for Krzyzewski for years. And so I thought, oh, I can get some help from Jim. I'll go ask Jim, what's Krzyzewski going to do? Like, this is going to be a real nightmare. I got to follow this guy, help me out, you know, Now, besides being a brilliant, handsome, charming, funny, smart guy, Jim also has a stutter, which I always thought was a great idea because with all these other things he had going for him, at least he had a stutter. But that didn't even really work out either because women thought that was charming too. Like, he could work his stutter in, and it sounded better than me anyhow. But anyway, so I go to Jim, and I said, Jim, I got to follow Krzyzewski. I roll out this big thing that I'm terrified about. And I said, Jim, can you give me any help? And Jim went, yes. Don't go up there. Just don't follow him. It's going to be... And sure enough, it was just as bad as I thought. I mean, he's telling stories about Jordan and Barkley and the U.S. Olympic team, and then I got to do. So, not that they're Jordan and Barkley, but anyway, there's my story. My second story about having to follow somebody that was. Here's what's going to happen. This is the obligatory agenda slide. Every PowerPoint presentation has to have one. Here's what the agenda is really going to be. The bad news is that this presentation is 25 slides long. The good news is that I figured this out. You guys care about, everybody in here, most all of you care about a couple of quick points. What problem have we diagnosed? What solution do we propose that fixes it? How much does it cost? And who am I that I think I can solve that problem? Now those 4 points, I've gotten into 3-4 slides tops. So most of you are going to be completely satisfied by just three or 4 slides here. Now there are a couple of you out there who are like my wife, and you're cynical, and if I give you just these high-level bullets and blast through them, you're going to think I've left something out, I'm hiding something, I'm skimming over. So I've left the rest of these slides in, but I'm going to blast through all of the rest of the detail that supports those 4 points. The only reason I tell you all of that is because what I don't want you to do is assume that I'm just skimming through those last slides to try to hide something either. If you've got a question, raise your hand, stop me. I'll dig into one of these detailed slides, and then we're here all day, and you come and ask us these questions. But I'm going to move really quickly through sort of the boring detail of the end. It'll be the beginning here that's the crux of what it is that you need. By the way, my wife wasn't cynical because she's been married to me. I found her that way. That was the... Okay, so here's the problem. Don came to us and outlined really pretty clearly what he wanted to accomplish for you guys. There were workflow inefficiencies. I don't have to spend a lot of time talking about that. You guys know what it is. It could be anything from somebody's called you, they want to read a 16-digit card number to you, you got to scribble it on something, maybe you got an error there, you got to rekey it someplace else, maybe you got an error there, extra steps that go along with that. Reconciliations and the like. Just workflow efficiencies that come from the fact that there's a system that runs your business, and then there's this dumb little gray box that the bank gave you to process credit cards on. And they don't know anything about each other, and you got to figure out a way to make them work together. He came and he said, I need that fixed. I need all of those dumb things in the box. I need it in my system so that the transactions and the thing that I'm delivering to my customers to run their business includes this critical cash flow instrument. The other thing that he realized, really forward thinking about this, it's very hard for us to get software developers often to realize this, is that you are being held responsible. But let me ask this question. We'll do it this way, it's easier. If you accept credit cards now, your bank is holding you responsible for credit card breach, fraud, and the like. The PCI Security Council and the courts have already stood up and said, you, the merchant, are responsible if credit cards get stolen and then get used improperly. Now, what Don recognized, and which is absolutely right, we see it across all of our merchants, you have that responsibility, but the bank's only telling you, they're just moving the crosshairs off of them onto you, telling you you're responsible, but they're not doing anything to either educate you or help you with that process. Don said, we're going to move this system into mine. I want my customers protected. The next piece was advanced payment related functionalities. So once we've taken these dumb services off of just reading magstripe data and getting approval codes, put them in the system, now there are ways that we can make them smarter. We can now do things with payments that banks couldn't ever do before. We can make the IntelliVent and Master Repair system smarter by using payments, and we can make payments smarter by using the IntelliVent and Master Repair systems. And then the last piece was contracts and support. The support one I'll start with, the first conversation I had with Don was a little contentious. He had had difficulties with you guys having difficulties with a previous integrated payments processor. And Don, in not so many words, said, I don't want to just hear that your customer support is superior. I'm going to need it to be quantifiable. I'm going to need it to be measurable. I'm going to need it to be quantifiable. There are going to need to be SLAs in place. I'm not putting up with this finger pointing that's going on now with our current solution. And then the contracts issue really has 2 pieces that had to be solved, and this was really interesting. First problem with contracts is that they exist. So every merchant services agreement, it's got a contract, and what it says is effectively, you're going to endure rate and fee increases. Visa and MasterCard increases interchange. They give that charge to me, and I pass it along to you. So you sign up for one set of rates and fees, but over the course of your life with me or any processor, any bank, you're going to get fee increases. Not going to tell you what they are, not going to tell you how often they're going to come. Now, the only reason that's a problem is if the contract is a multi-year contract with termination fees. If it's a multi-year contract with termination fees, you're going to have to take every one of those increases whether you like it or not. Don said no contracts. No contracts, no term fees. They stay with this as long as the service is good and they're satisfied with the rates and fees. The other problem with the contracts is one that's a little more technical but no less important. Every single banking contract, if your current merchant account is with the bank that holds your other bank accounts, you've got your real estate loan and your operational account, payroll account, inventory, whatever accounts, your personal bank accounts, whatever it is, every one of those banking contracts, boy, everybody's eyes are glazing over on this when I start talking about banking contracts, I don't blame you. Every one of those contracts has something in it called a cross-collateralization clause. All that means is the bank has said, if I get itchy or uncomfortable in any way with any of these accounts, I can go make myself comfortable in any of the other accounts. I can get reserves, I can freeze funds, I can do whatever it is that I want to do. Now with the sort of standard banking services, not such a big deal. You add a merchant account to that, now it's a big deal. Because banks get really screwy about chargebacks and investigations and fraudulent transactions and the like. You've got to get your merchant account away from your other banking services to avoid those cross-collateralization clauses. Thanks for listening to the banking contract piece there. So this was the problem that was outlined and what Don wanted fixed for his customers. And here's what we did. Using a platform that we'll talk about later, I'm a software developer, I'm not a bank. I make my money on a banking service, a merchant account, but I'm a software developer. I brought a platform to Don. He and his team and me and my team worked together to put all of the electronic payments inside of the systems that he's provided for you. Perpetual evergreen guarantee of competitive rates and fees. There is no contract, no term fee. We're going to set up rates and fees based on your individual businesses. Everybody's is going to be different. Your transaction volume's different. The types of business that you're doing is different. Everybody's rates and fees are going to be different. But we're going to get those rates and fees set up with you. No contracts, no term fees, and no cross-collateralization risks. It's credit, debit, checks, and then these advanced payment features that we talked about earlier. So recurring payments, we're able to store that cardholder data so that you can reuse it, either for recurring payments or to recognize returning customers or whatever. And then updated card services. That's an especially unique set of services for you guys. If you've stored 500, if you're taking advantage of 500 customers that you've stored their payment data, and a few months later you want to go in and hit that payment data again, there's the potential that that card data is no longer good. That card's been replaced. Either it was lost or stolen and replaced, or it's expired and been replaced. And now you've got to call that person and get new payment data from them, along with enduring the decline fees that happen because the card wasn't good when you ran it through. This system is going to automatically update those cards every single day. Behind the scenes, without you having to do anything, we're going out to Visa and MasterCard and the banks and saying, is all this card data still good? All of this is good, these three aren't, here's the new information, we put it in. So when you go to use it, it'll always be good information. Mobile transactions, I don't know how many of you guys, I'm not sure exactly what the workflow would be, it's hard to imagine, but you've got the ability to accept transactions on a smartphone, encrypted, secure. E-invoicing solutions, what this is somebody calls you and they want to give you a credit card number over the phone hold on one second, let me get your email address, type in the email address, hit send. They're going to get the invoice, click here to pay. Do you still want to use card XXXXX.1234? Yes, I do. Submit, and the transaction's done without you having to write everything down. Is there a question in the back?
So you're saying that if I have John Doe, his credit card is an American Express card,
Yeah.
and somehow it's changed because of the date, let's say it's
Yeah.
expired, he forgets to tell us, he goes, "Oh, just charge my credit card, you have it on file," forgets us, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, even though he forgot to tell me that his credit
Yeah.
card is different and our expiration date is different, it'll be automatically updated, so when we send it through, it won't be declined?
Yeah, that's right. And that was an especially good example because we don't do it with American Express. So that was an especially good example. American Express does not offer this. American Express will not update cards. Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and on. This card, they'll give us this card updated service. So what's happening is you're maintaining for that customer a token that is useless to thieves. And this is really important from a security standpoint. You're maintaining a token, an encrypted token, useless to thieves. That encrypted token, though, to me, connects to all of this sensitive card data. I've got that customer's, I've got that one because he's with an American Express, but I can't update him. The Visa, MasterCard, and the like, they're expiring all the time. Or somebody's losing, or just the MagStripe data went bad and they had to get a new card. Every single day, without you or your customer having to deal with it, I'm going out to the banking world, checking to make sure all this data is still good, finding out which ones have expired and been replaced, putting it back in the database. So the token that you're maintaining is always a good token. It's always going to call good card data. These are things, like I said, when Don came to us and said, listen, we can make payments smarter by putting them in the solution. And it's these kinds of things that we're able to do now because it's not just some dumb box that the bank gave you sitting on a countertop. Uniquely protecting you against credit card fraud and breach. This is going to be the most boring part of the presentation, and I'm going to flash through it when we get to the end. But the banks, you all, if you're accepting credit cards, you all have received at least 3 notifications via mail from the PCI Security Council and the card brands that tell you that you're responsible for credit card security, and the courts have upheld that. Now, I've seen these letters. You guys don't know what they said. I can't tell what they said. It's a horrible burden, and the way that the credit card companies have put it on you is wholly unfair. But the courts have stood behind that and said, yes, they've been informed, they're responsible. Fraudulent transactions, credit card breach, credit card theft, identity theft. The thing, if the thief got that credit card data from you and your systems, the courts have proven they'll hold you responsible for that. The solution here is that we're going to move the crosshairs off of you and onto us. We're going to put you in a situation where you don't have anything to steal. The only thing that's going to be on your system are encrypted tokens. And it's a really interesting technology, interesting maybe a stretch, really advanced technology that we use to make sure that you're out of scope. And then finally, the quantifiably premium customer support services. I would be silly for me to stand in front of you and say that I'm not ever going to make any one of you mad. I will. I'll make a mistake somewhere along the line, and there will be a complaint regarding customer support. What I'm going to show you is that there's no way that that can fall through the cracks. We will quantify, we do, quantify and document and measure every single customer support experience, and we make that available to all of our partners. So there are measurable SLAs that ensure that we are perpetually moving towards a perfect customer support experience, and I'll show you some of that. So the problem and the solution at a high level told you what problem have we diagnosed, what solution have we proposed. The next question is who am I to, and how much does it cost? Let's go back to how much it costs again for a second. So everybody's rates and fees are going to be different. I got another chart that I'll show you if you like. Visa and MasterCard, all of them, they publish interchange fees. These are the costs of credit card processing. We can show it to you. I am, candidly, one of the most expensive merchant processing vendors in the country. I provide an enormous number of value-added services, and overall, in general, my rates and fees are often substantially more than what it is that you're going to pay your bank. It won't happen, though, with this integration. So with this integration, there's a basic statement that says, like I say, there are no contracts, no term fees. You're going to get all of this additional feature functionality, and all we ask is that you start paying us what you were already paying your banks. There's a guarantee in place that says the rates and fees that you get for this solution will be equal to or less than. If we can save you money, we will. What it is that you're currently paying your banks. How much you pay is going to be based on what your transaction volume is, average ticket. IntelliVent customers are going to pay something different than Master Repair customers are. Whether most of your transactions are card present or card not present, it's all over the board. But there will be no contracts and a guarantee that you won't pay anything additional. You won't suffer any additional cost burden for the benefit of these systems. So here's who I am. I have been providing these kinds of services to software developers like Don for a little over 16 years. I'm a software developer, but I make my money providing a banking service. 1,500 software development partners, 65,000 merchants. Our support is in-house, employees, stateside, 24/7 by 365. All of them, when you call in, are going to know that you're calling in regarding an IntelliVent or a Master Repair solution and be able to provide support specific to your solution. You won't ever have to wonder whether or not, is the problem my MagStripe reader, or is the problem my bank, or is the problem my Extreme Impact solution. Everything from the MagStripe reader back, the entire ecosystem is going to get covered by us 24/7 by 365. If we diagnose that the problem is an Extreme Impact solution problem, we're not going to just bump you over there either. We're going to say, we've diagnosed this, we're going to need some help from Andy. Would you like to hold on for a second while I get him on the line, or do you want the number? But you won't have to call lots of folks to figure out where the problem is. Okay, so let me, a little more about who we are. I think really these two indicate that not only are we large and successful, but we are thriving and growing. These down here are important because of the security issues. These security issues, I really struggle with what to present here because it's one of the most important things that Don's solution is delivering to you. It's a vast chasm between what you're getting in the IntelliVent solution and the Master Repair solution versus what it is that you're getting from your bank. But it's boring, guys. So I don't know how far we want to go into this, but we are security experts. We've taken a leadership position on how to secure and protect our merchants from the security and fraud issues. All right, so let me pause there. Those are the 3 to 4 slides that I said I could get the high level pieces in. Everything after this, I'm going to blast through in a hurry. Does anybody have any questions before I take a deep breath and try to get you this information? Very good? Okay. Here's what it is. A little more detail. Don Ramika, humanitarian sportsman visionary. Nobody laughed. So either they all think he is a humanitarian sportsman and visionary, or we were poking fun at Don with this. But the truth of the matter is that while I'm poking fun at him, he's one of the few software developers who came to us with the vision and understanding of it's not just moving MagStripe data into the solution. We now have to secure it, and now we have to make it smarter. And every one of our software developers eventually understands this. Don really came to us with this idea from the beginning. And an opportunity to continue this roadmap and continue to add new functionality. Over the course of the last couple of years, things have changed a lot in payments. We've added mobile payments. We've got loyalty solutions, social media solutions. All of these things are related to payments, and it's going to keep moving. And this provides a roadmap for us to continue to deliver these advanced payment functionalities to you. Can't believe nobody laughed at Don's title up there. Security issues. So what's the big deal? I'm not going to go through every one of these. I'm going to show you two of them really. Raise your hand if you as a card holder, not you as a merchant, but you as a consumer, how many people in here have received a notification from their bank saying there's some kind of potential suspicious activity on your card? Hey, leave them up for a second. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, see, it's a lot more than, yes, it's growing. So the card brands have said 1 in 4 consumers have been notified of a data breach. And this group's got a much higher than that. This is one of the fastest growing crime segments. Thieves are after your point of sale systems. And every time you receive one of those, what's happened is they have identified some place where you have used your card is a potential breach victim. And they're concerned your cardholder data has been stolen. And that's what that's about. The only other one I'll talk about here is 87% of all of the breaches were considered avoidable through intermediate controls. Intermediate controls, what's intermediate controls? Intermediate controls are the very simple things that Don and I have built into your system so that we can protect your business from these kinds of issues. A lot of other scary numbers up there. All right, the master repair integration. No more double keying, saves time. We talked about the workflow. We're going to manage all of the sensitive data so you don't have security issues. The e-invoicing solution that I told you about that allows you to send an email to somebody and they can pay you on that email. Mobile processing, we found that mobile processing has been very valuable in auto repair and service areas, but it's mostly been the Reynolds and Reynolds in the world and the ADPs of the world and the Proceed, Midas, and the like, the bigger ones. They're out servicing a 18-wheeler out on the road and processing credit cards there. Point is, you have that ability. We're covering the entire system from a support standpoint, and all of your reporting is consolidated into one portal. Credit cards, checks, debit, everything into one online portal that you can manage from anywhere. The IntelliVent solution is effectively the same thing. The IntelliVent solution had a need that we didn't think was as important for master repair. Really interested in feedback on this if you guys see it differently. The IntelliVent solution has that, managed payer data, and account updater solution we were talking about earlier. Didn't see that master repair had the recurring, ongoing, subsequent payment needs, the same as IntelliVent did. But the same security issues, the same support issues, workflow benefits, mobile, e-invoicing, and the like, plus this great account updater solution. Just a view of the portal that you use to manage. There's a whole demo that goes along with this. I won't bother you with that now, but a single portal, one log-on allows you to see all of your transactions. Credit, debit, check, recurring, mobile, e-invoicing, everything all in one place. Our customer care solutions are quantifiable. Every single customer support call that we get it's the most intricately managed customer satisfaction survey system I've ever seen. We manage this at an executive level once a week. We're keeping up with what are these scores and where were the failures, and managing and reporting to this all through our organization and fixing it every day. We slipped a little bit in 2011 there, didn't we? That's out of five, by the way, not out of 10. It's 1 out of 5. And that's a big deal given that we cover everything: hardware, software, transactions, integrations. Fraud Watch, if you accept credit cards, one of the other issues that you got, this is distinct from breach. Breach is when someone's stealing a lot of credit cards from you. Fraud is when someone uses a credit card fraudulently as a transaction, and most of the fraud happens from employees. And it could be as simple as the employee got the 16-digit number, put it in a pocket, walked away, up to things that are far more nefarious. Most banks, your current merchant processor basically tells you, well, that's on you. It's on you. I've told you what's a fraudulent transaction. I've told you what to avoid. I've told you, but if you get a fraudulent transaction, you haven't done what you're supposed to do, you're going to have to eat it. What we're doing is watching every single one of your transactions with a parameter-based system and a set of full-time employees that are looking for a certain set of things so that they can actively live call you and say, do you realize that you just took 4 $3,000 orders for somebody in Nigeria? That doesn't look right. Are you sure that's what you want to put through? And here's how we need to get it stopped if you didn't mean to do that. And lots of other ways that we provide that business fraud assistance. We have saved our customers an enormous amount of money with this Fraud Watch system. You can see this spike here, but $21 million in the last 4 years. That spike is interesting, and this is why all of this is so important. Look at the jump in 2011. This crime segment is huge, and you, just sort of as a business person trying to get through your day and hit your number and get the bills paid, are the targets for these issues. Here's what the courts have said you're going to be responsible for if you don't do what you're supposed to do. And what it is that Don and I have relieved you of. Use the system the way that it's supposed to be used. We can protect you, keep you out of scope of all of these things. We're going to take care to make sure that you as a merchant are also certified. Most merchants don't even know that they have a responsibility to be certified themselves as PCI compliant and wouldn't know where to start about how to get there. We're going to take care of all of that for you. The most important thing is, out of all the things that I'm going to say about security, I'd love, if anybody wants to sit down and talk about credit card security, first of all, I got to tell you, you ought to have a hobby, because if you want to talk about credit card security, you need something else to do. But we're happy to teach you. We're happy to make you experts on this if you want to. But here's what we've done so you don't have to be an expert. There is a $200,000 insurance policy. If the worst happens, if the bad guys get through, if you're using our system the way you're supposed to use it, we'll pay. All of these things earlier, all of these things, the things that you're going to have to pay, get paid for by a merchant breach guarantee available to extreme impact integrated payments users for $200,000. So not only are we going to take responsibility, but we're also going to provide an insurance policy for you. There's no cost for any of this. Well, there's no cost. It's in the rates and fees. As you can see, when I go through all of these other things, you can see why I said at the beginning. In general, I'm really one of the most expensive merchant services providers that there is. These fraud watch systems are extremely expensive. Merchant breach guarantees have got to get paid for. The customer care solutions that we deliver, the additional technologies, all of those things usually end up in rates and fees, not for the extreme impact customers. Some information about how this gets done. Matthew Stanley, same guy that's going to be dealing with all extreme impact customers. He knows you, he knows your business, he understands how the system works, he knows the way to get it set up properly. I blasted through the end of it. Hope you guys didn't think I was hiding anything, but I hope nobody fell asleep either. Any questions? I got prizes for really good questions.
So for fraud, I know there's companies like Retail Decision that cost $10,000 a month. Do you guys do all your own fraud analysis, or do you?
For the great question. There's a
third-party fraud?
No, it's ours. It is our fraud assistants, they're employees in our Bay Area offices. There's a parameter-based system that's watching every transaction, and then there are people watching every transaction. There's a good question. Anytime I get a question that I can answer. Yes?
So the e-check system is basically done the same as the credit card system. You invoice out, and fill it out, and it says it.
Yep. So I think the answer is yes, it's basically the same, but obviously the check systems are very different than the credit card systems. And it's why this is really such a good solution, I think, for you guys, because even though they're so different, we're putting them in the same electronic payment solution. But there are different things that can get done in different ways that it's got to be protected. Obviously, there's no way to encrypt the routing number and the like that goes with credit cards. But you can still reuse it for recurring payments. I can't update it, right? If the credit check, so there are things like that that happen. Very different costs associated with handling checks instead of credit cards, but they're all in the same system. Yep, that's right. Or they, you know, they're reading it to you over the phone. You can get that in and have a. So, however you normally take a transaction, you can do it with that checking information as well.
Does it work? I guess is the benefit different if you're taking the majority of your credit cards still revolving when the card's not present? And from a fee basis, I mean, is your service still competitive?
Yeah, it's a big difference. We were talking about this earlier with Avista. Card present versus card not present transactions are profoundly different. The costs from Visa and MasterCard, there's a wine stopper for you. The costs are very different. What I want you guys to understand is, and probably you don't care much one way or the other, but I always like for my customers to understand this. Somewhere between 85 and about 92% of what it is that you pay in rates and fees is going to Visa and MasterCard. The total amount of rates and fees, a tiny amount of it is me and or your card issuing bank. Somewhere between at least 85 and as much as 92% of this is Visa and MasterCard interchange costs that are published online. And when you look at these things, I'm not going to be able to get to it quickly, but I can show anybody, I've got it up here. It's like, how many, Derek? 130 different categories of rates and fees. Every different kind of card, whether it's card present or card not present, whether you put in AVS or you didn't, and it's, I can't shield you from that, really. Unfortunately, in the end, we've all got to suffer through what Visa and MasterCard charges, and the card not present transactions are a lot more expensive for sure.
Further on that, do you use also a credit case to guarantee the master current?
Yeah.
Do you guarantee every one of those 130?
Every single one. And here's what I would encourage you to consider. We'll do this. A lot of merchants don't want to do this because, I'm not sure why. I think it's because they just don't understand. But the right way for you to be priced is something that's called pass-through plus. And what that says is that I'm just going to pass through all 130 of these things to you, and here's the profit margin I'm taking. And you get to see you just know that every card, every transaction is going to go through at the published Visa and MasterCard rates, and you can see I'm going to add this to every one of those transactions. As opposed to you get, you know, a 2.2, a 3.1, and or a 1 point. It's just every single one is different, and here's my profit margin. It's worth considering, although you got to deal with the extra sets of rates and fees. Yes, ma'am. American Express, Discover, JCB. We just can't update. We can't update American Express. Yeah, and so it still is. Yeah, so American Express, we don't even have any guidelines about what the rates and fees are going to be on American Express. For American Express, they tell us what your rates and fees are going to be, and we don't have anything to do with that. Yeah. Yeah, so if you have card-present transactions, there is an encrypted terminal, so you'll get those lower rates and fees, and the card is encrypted at the point of swipe. Card data is never in the clear. You're completely safe.
Do you know what time
You're just asking a question.
Leon Panetta's wife's supposed to be in here?
No, I don't know. Am I putting...
No, you got to answer the question. You know what time Leon Panetta's?
I don't know. It stinks that she's got to follow me.
We're getting bumped. Exactly. It's going to be tough on her. She's not coming in to speak to us. That'd be kind of cool.
Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Phil. I didn't mean to... There's a crew that's like standing outside the door here that has to tear this thing down at 2 on the nose, but my wife's going to love this, by the way. Thank you. So, everybody else, I think, real quick.
Derek has a little award ceremony. Oh, do I have it? Who won the golf tournament?
Ooh.
Who won the golf tournament?
2 of them. Technically, it was my team.
And you guys be held accountable for.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Who won the kayak event? They were all winners, right? You got.
She's the only one that actually fell in the water.
Did you fall in? Sweet. All right. Hey, and well, thanks for that, guys. PayPros, we love you guys. I think does everybody know the schedule? I think we're going back to Master Repair and Televent Express, Lightning Groups, and then I think that ends around 4. I think Stuart Richmond, does everybody know Stuart? He was going to do a general overview of IT best practices, a presentation for everybody, but I think the Master Repair customers, the technology, the way it's set up, the Televent Express, and then now Lightning, they're all a little bit unique in the technology part of it, so it's kind of a little bit different discussion. So right after this, he's going to come down and, I don't know which one makes the most sense, but he's going to go through and do a little 15-minute interactive session, just talking about just having your plumbing, so to speak, set up in the best possible light for the various products that we have, because it does make a difference. I mean, you guys know what it's like when your toilet overflows. It's because there's a, there's an issue, right? Well, it's actually one of the, it's a childhood scary thought. I swear to God, I used to have this thing. I remember one time I'm in like East LA and I'm in a bathroom. My mom was at some conference and I'm over there and these really mean like gang group, they're all around me. I'm in this stall and I'm like probably 10 years old, man, and I flush the toilet, it's coming up underneath me. It's the scariest thing ever. I didn't want to make any noise. I don't want these guys to beat me up, But the point is, make sure your plumbing is full flow, baby, because it makes a difference on speed, performance, all those things, right? So that's kind of a weird image. Anyway, I'm sharing a lot of stuff with you guys, but so hey, and that's Stuart. No, I'm just kidding. No. Roto-Rooter, no.
You ready to present?
All right, guys, you guys can head on out. Chuck Mercier's giving away $100,000 worth of Unical 76 gas. I won. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just teasing. See you guys. Huh? Oh, I'll give it to Creed. Okay, cool. Thanks. Hey, are you driving, right? Yeah. So drive safe. Yeah. All right, cool.